Hello, lovely listeners. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Learn English with Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki, and I'm here with my good buddy, Tony.
That's right, friends. And we're thrilled to have you join us today. Today's topic is something we all love to hear about. Tips to save money.
That's right, Tony. We all want to know how to save those precious pennies, don't we?
Absolutely. And we're here to help you do just that. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to learn some fantastic money-saving tips.
Now, before we dive into our discussion, let's talk a bit about why saving money is so important. Tony, what do you think?
Well, Nikki, saving money is like planting seeds for the future. You put a little bit away now, and before you know it, you got a whole garden of savings.
I love that analogy, Tony. And you know what else? Saving money gives us peace of mind. It's like having a safety net for those unexpected expenses.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the freedom it gives us. When we have savings, we're not tied down by financial worries. We can pursue our dreams and live life to the fullest.
Well said, Tony. And speaking of pursuing dreams, I remember when I was saving up for my dream vacation. I made a budget, cut back on unnecessary expenses, and before I knew it, I was lounging on a beach in paradise.
Hey, that sounds amazing, Nikki. You know, I had a similar experience when I was saving up for a new bike. I packed my lunch instead of eating out, brewed my own coffee instead of hitting up the cafe every morning, and voila! I had enough money for that shiny new bike in no time.
That's the spirit, Tony. It's all about making smart choices and being disciplined with our spending.
Absolutely. And you know what they say? A penny saved is a penny earned.
Right you are, Tony. And on that note, let's dive into our first guest story about how they saved money. Stay tuned, folks. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back, everyone. We're thrilled to have our first guest joining us today. Please welcome Sarah to the show. Sarah, could you tell us a bit about how you've managed to save money?
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thanks for having me. Well, one thing I've done to save money is I started bringing my lunch to work instead of eating out every day. It may seem small, but those daily lunches really add up over time.
That's a fantastic tip, Sarah. Packing your own lunch is not only healthier but also a great way to save some cash. Did you find it challenging to stick to that habit?
At first, it was a bit tough breaking the habit of grabbing lunch on the go, but once I got into the routine of meal prepping on Sundays, it became much easier.
Meal prepping is definitely key. And what other strategies have you used to save money?
Another thing I've done is I started using cashback apps when shopping online. It's amazing how much money you can get back just by using those apps for purchases you were going to make anyway.
That's a smart move, Sarah. Cashback apps are a great way to stretch your dollar further. It's like getting a little bonus every time you shop.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your money-saving strategies with us, Sarah. Now, let's dive into some tips that our listeners can start using today to save money. Wasn't Sarah's story inspiring, Tony? I love how she emphasized the importance of small changes adding up over time.
Absolutely, Nikki. It just shows that with a bit of creativity and discipline, anyone can start saving money.
And did you catch how she mentioned using cashback apps? That's such a great tip for our listeners. It's like getting rewarded for your regular purchases.
Definitely, Nikki. It's all about maximizing those savings wherever you can. And speaking of which, let's share 2 more money-saving tips with our listeners right now.
Sounds good, Tony. Tip number 1. Set up automatic transfers to your savings account. By automating your savings, you'll ensure that a portion of your income goes straight into savings before you even have a chance to spend it.
That's a fantastic tip, Nikki. Automating your savings takes the guesswork out of it and helps you build up your savings effortlessly over time.
Absolutely. And tip number 2. Take advantage of free or low-cost entertainment options. Instead of spending money on expensive outings, look for free events in your community or host a movie night at home with friends.
That's right, Nikki. Saving money doesn't mean sacrificing fun. There are plenty of ways to enjoy yourself without breaking the bank.
Well said, Tony. And remember, it's the little changes that can make a big difference in your financial health.
That's right, Nikki. Stay tuned, because we've got more money-saving stories and tips coming your way.
Our next guest has some fantastic insights on saving money. Please welcome Mark to the show. Mark, could you share with us how you've managed to save money?
Hey, Nikki and Tony. Thanks for having me. Well, one thing I've done to save money is I canceled unnecessary subscription services. You'd be surprised how much you can save by cutting out those monthly expenses you don't really need.
That's a great point, Mark. It's easy to forget about those subscriptions, but they can really add up over time if left unchecked. Did you find it difficult to identify which subscriptions to cut?
Definitely. At first, I had to sit down and take a hard look at all my subscriptions. I realized there were quite a few I wasn't using regularly or could live without, so I decided to let them go.
That's a smart move, Mark. Sometimes we don't realize just how much money is slipping away each month on those automatic payments.
Exactly. Another thing I've done is I started buying generic brands instead of name brands at the grocery store. I found that in many cases, the quality is just as good, but the price is much lower.
That's a great tip, Mark. Buying generic brands is an easy way to shave off some extra dollars from your grocery bill without sacrificing quality. Did you notice a significant difference in your grocery spending after making that switch?
Absolutely. I was surprised at how much I was able to save just by making that one change. It really adds up over time.
Thank you for sharing your money-saving strategies with us, Mark. Now, let's discuss these tips and how our listeners can apply them in their own lives.
Mark's strategies were spot on, weren't they, Nikki? Canceling unused subscriptions and opting for generic brands are both simple yet effective ways to save money.
Absolutely, Tony. It just goes to show that sometimes the easiest changes can have the biggest impact on our finances.
And did you catch how Mark mentioned the importance of reassessing our expenses regularly? It's crucial to periodically review our spending habits to make sure we're not overlooking any areas where we can save.
Definitely, Tony. It's all about staying vigilant and making adjustments as needed to stay on track with our financial goals.
Absolutely. And let's not forget about those 2 extra money-saving tips we promised our listeners.
Right, Tony? Tip number 3. Reduce energy consumption in your home. Simple changes like turning off lights when you leave a room, unplugging electronics when they're not in use, and using energy-efficient appliances can lead to significant savings on your utility bills.
That's a great tip, Nikki. Being mindful of our energy usage not only helps us save money, but also reduces our environmental footprint. It's a win-win.
Exactly, Tony. And tip number 4. Learn to do it yourself. Instead of hiring professionals for every repair or project, try tackling some tasks yourself. Whether it's fixing a leaky faucet or painting a room, learning basic do-it-yourself skills can save you a ton of money in the long run.
Absolutely, Nikki. Plus, there's a great sense of satisfaction that comes from completing a project yourself. It's like a double win.
Well said, Tony. Remember, folks, with a little creativity and resourcefulness, there are endless opportunities to save money in our everyday lives.
That's right, Nikki. Stay tuned, because we've got more money-saving tips and stories coming your way.
Our next guest has some more money-saving wisdom to share. Let's give a warm welcome to Emily. Emily, how have you been able to save money?
Hi, Nikki and Tony. Thanks for having me. One way I've saved money is by meal planning and grocery shopping with a list. It helps me avoid impulse purchases and ensures that I only buy what I need for the week.
That's a fantastic tip, Emily. Meal planning is such a game changer when it comes to sticking to a budget and reducing food waste. Did you find it challenging to get into the habit of meal planning at first?
Definitely, Tony. It took some time to get organized and figure out what works best for me, but once I got into the routine, it became second nature.
That's great to hear, Emily. And what other strategies have you used to save money?
Another thing I've done is I've switched to a cheaper cell phone plan. I realized I was paying for more data than I actually needed, so I downgraded to a plan that better suits my usage.
That's a smart move, Emily. It's important to review our recurring expenses regularly to make sure we're not overpaying for services we don't fully utilize. Did you notice a significant difference in your monthly phone bill after making that switch?
Absolutely, Tony. I was able to save quite a bit of money each month without sacrificing the quality of service. It was definitely worth it.
Thank you for sharing your money-saving strategies with us, Emily. Now, let's discuss these tips and how our listeners can implement them in their own lives.
Emily's tips were fantastic, Nikki. Meal planning and reviewing recurring expenses are both excellent ways to keep our budgets in check.
Absolutely, Tony. It's all about being proactive and finding areas where we can cut costs without sacrificing our quality of life.
And did you catch how Emily emphasized the importance of finding what works best for you? It's essential to personalize your approach to saving money to fit your lifestyle and preferences.
Definitely, Tony. What works for one person may not work for another, so it's essential to experiment and find the strategies that resonate with you.
Absolutely. And with that, we've reached the end of another fantastic episode. But before we go, let's review the 7 key words we've learned today. Budgeting, subscriptions, generic, do-it-yourself meal planning, automating, and recurring.
That's right, Tony. Let's quickly go over each word and its meaning. Shall we?
Now, let's review the 7 key words we've learned during today's podcast and provide some examples used in the program.
Absolutely, Tony. Our first word is budgeting. Budgeting is the process of creating a plan to manage your money. For example, Sarah mentioned that she made a budget to track her expenses and save for her vacation.
That's right, Nikki. Our second word is subscriptions. Subscriptions are regular payments made to receive a service or product on a recurring basis. Mark talked about canceling unused subscriptions to save money each month.
Our third word is generic. Generic refers to products that are not branded or marketed under a specific name. Mark mentioned that he started buying generic brands at the grocery store to save money.
The fourth word is DIY, which stands for do-it-yourself. Do-it-yourself refers to activities or tasks that you do yourself instead of paying someone else to do them. Mark discussed the importance of do-it-yourself projects for saving money.
Our fifth word is meal planning. Meal planning involves deciding what meals to prepare in advance and making a list of ingredients needed. Emily shared that meal planning helped her save money and reduce food waste.
The sixth word is automating. Automating means to set up a process or system to operate automatically without direct human intervention. We mentioned setting up automatic transfers to savings accounts as a way to automate saving money.
And finally, our seventh word is recurring. Recurring means happening repeatedly or on a regular basis. Emily talked about reviewing recurring expenses to identify areas where she could save money.
That's right, Nikki. By understanding and using these key words, our listeners can better navigate the world of personal finance and work towards their financial goals.
Absolutely, Tony. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. We hope you've enjoyed learning about money-saving tips and strategies with us.
And remember, saving money doesn't have to be complicated. With a little creativity and discipline, anyone can build a brighter financial future. And before we go, folks, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes filled with valuable English learning tips and engaging conversations.
That's right, Tony. And if you enjoyed today's episode, give us a like and share it with your friends who are also learning English. Together, we can all improve our language skills and save some money along the way.
Absolutely, Nikki. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Until next time, keep practicing, keep saving, and keep learning with Learn English with Podcast.